Hi, this is Matthew. I'm going to talk about, well, mostly the books, but just the Hardy Boys in general, which are a group of brothers, Frank and Joe Hardy, who their father, Fenton Hardy, is a detective with the police force at Bayport, which I believe is supposed to be outside of New York City someplace. I assume it's upstate. They never say where Bayport is, but I know New York is fairly close. I think they could drive to New York if they wanted to do so. They do have things around Bayport and the area. They do go to New York for things. They've gone out of the country. They've gone to other parts of the country here as well. Different things. Books are written. Basically, it was a team of writers, but they went under the Franklin W. Dixon name. Had some books, 20s through probably late 40s, maybe early 50s. 59 came along. They revised them all and changed them around to make them more modern and took out a lot of racial and, I guess, kind of dated stuff. I know 92, I think they redid them again, but had like kind of older covers or something for the anniversary of the books. I forget what the 70s series was called. I've forgotten. They had a further line there. Then they had the case files in the 80s and 90s. I forget when they all stopped, but then there was a 2005-ish thing where they were even younger. They were about 17, 18 originally. And I think they might have been 14, 15 at first, and they upped them a little bit. Then they're about like 12 or 13 for this other series, but they're in first person between the two brothers and not in third person. I've never gotten to read those. I don't know how good they are. I've never read them. I can't say anything about them. My old vision teacher, she had them in Braille at her place before they moved. She retired. But I've not read them. Excited to see them, but I didn't get a chance to read them. I just saw kind of what title she had one time I was over there years back. I don't know how good they are. There was a series on Hulu recently. They're fairly young. A little bit of a mouth on them, language-wise, which I was not used to. I know there was a Mickey Mouse Club feature of them in the 50s from that show. There was a 70s version, which I've seen like one video of years ago on VHS. There was about a 95 series. It was them and Nancy Drew together. They kind of aired as a block. One season they did not do well. I got to see 1 or 2 episodes of that. There were some team-up novels with them, and I want to say Nancy Drew. I know there were some Tom Swift ones, but I really think there was a few Nancy Drew team-ups as well. I've read a few Nancy Drew. Read quite a few Tom Swifts that I could get a hold of. But Hardy Boys, though, they've got Frank and Joe. You've got Fenton Hardy, their father. Laura Hardy is the mother. And Gertrude comes along fairly early on. I forget why she has to live with them. But she's the aunt. She will scold her for doing things she doesn't like. Or there's some comedic stuff. Her and Laura usually always make sure there's food around for stakeouts or just gathered to talk about cases or whatever. Frank had Kelly Shaw as a girlfriend. Iola Morton was Joe's. The case files, they kill her off very early. And he's very angry about it for a very long time in those. I had to finally read that book. I could finally get a copy of it. They really don't see her. I mean, obviously there's no body. I always felt that maybe she was out there somewhere. Maybe someone was hiding her, but I guess she just died in the car. But I guess if a car explodes like that, you're not going to have any remains, unfortunately. But, the main books, before that, she was alive and well, and those two would help them occasionally. They had their friend, Chet Morton, was in most of the cases. I guess a very overweight individual, but he had a farm. I forget his parents' names and stuff. Chet Morton was his name. Had a kind of a jalopy car that he drove around a lot, but he always tried to help them out with their cases and stuff. He also had Phil Cohen and Tony Prito, and that helped out too. I feel like missing somebody. I don't know that I am. Those are the main ones. They would help sometimes with cases in the books and stuff. I think it's everyone. Of course, Chief Colleague is the main person, the chief that they, will get information to, or he'll get fit on something, and he'll get all of them involved in some way on certain cases, different things. Sometimes I remember one of their friends or family was involved in something, and they had to try to figure out what happened. Lots of different things out there. Several of them now are public domain. The first 6, I think, are public domain now in this country, in the U.S. LibriVox has a few of them. I think they're working on others, perhaps. I think I heard a podcast where they were wanting to do more of them. The one I read, the first one from 27, the Tower Treasure Mystery, and it was multiple few people reading, which got very jarring because you had different environments, different accents. Their reading was different, of course. Some would tell you when they recorded it. Others did not tell me when they recorded it. I think there might have been a few other partial versions of them. But there are some up there. I need to go back up and look and read some more of them. I've only read the 59 ones. So it's kind of interesting to read the 27 ones. They're very different. They had like servants and stuff. They had like a stable, which was interesting. There was a kind of a dated scene where they're driving in the car and they're like honking at this guy who's got horse and buggy going on down the road, and they're honking at him and he's freaked out. They're driving fast past him, and obviously that was something that they took out for datedness sake. But I'm sure in 27 it's pretty funny because they have a car, he doesn't, and cars were still fairly rare. Most people probably wouldn't have them, especially in a more rural area. A small area like Bayport would have been. Obviously there were cars, but not tons of cars, obviously, at this point. But yeah, that was kind of interesting sequence of something they got removed, but was not in the version I read. I read it a couple times. Where to get them? I know Bard for the Blind. We have several of them. They're all from the tape collections and stuff. Various parts of the runs. I don't know if we have the new books. I don't know that we do. I'm not aware of them. Anyway, it's all of the 3 main lines that I would have read as a kid are there. I don't know if I think some of them might have been newly recorded several years back. I'm assuming, I think they're like maybe some later version of the 90s version. I don't know. I've not read those. I checked out one. I think it has sound effects off Libby for public libraries. I think is where I found it. I don't know who puts them out. I don't know much more than that about them. I believe the syndicator was Grosset and Dunlap as who put these out. Book-wise, they did that. They did Nancy Drew. They did Tom Swift. The Dana Girls, which were 2 sister detectives. I don't remember if they were twins. I think they might have been twins. Didn't read a ton of those. A couple. Remember the one we were reading for giggles, and they're halfway through this case. I forget when this book was put out, but they had to stop the case because of finals, because they're in like high school or college. I forget how old they were. And my dad's like, wait a minute. We were in the car traveling to I think a hot air balloon race or something, because we did that. We had hot air balloons. And he's like, wait a minute. If they did that, the case would be cold. By the time they got back, everything would be gone. So his objection. Yeah, he's not wrong. He wasn't wrong. Excuse me. He was not wrong about that. But, yeah, those were kind of different books. The Hardy Boys would never have done that. They would have just kept going. They might have mentioned they had tests and stuff, but they would have still done the case, and they would probably never have stopped. An interesting choice for whoever wrote that book. I don't know. I feel there's some other series that all these teams of writers did under certain ghostwriter names, but I don't remember what the other ones. I want to say there's 2 or 3 other ones. I've never read them. I don't know who they are. Yeah, I can't think of them right now. At some point I read them about them on Wikipedia, but I don't remember what I read. And don't really feel like looking because I know most of stuff's off the top of my head. Team up wise, there were some team ups, as I said. I think there were some Hardy Boys Nancy Drew. I know there were some Hardy Boys and Tom Swift. There were a couple of them. There was a newer incarnations at the time in the early 90s. Those are pretty cool. There was one where there was a robot character that just is gone, and I don't know whatever happened to him. And they didn't do any more with those teams. Were pretty short-lived, and they didn't do very many of them. And the Tom Swift just really left you hanging. I wanted more of those. It was kind of cool to have them with Tom Swift because he had all these inventions and stuff. But they didn't do many of them. I don't know if they did very well or what, but they just didn't. They just kind of stopped. And they kept going for a while, but finding them as a blind person was difficult. Most of the ones I read were read to me by my mom. I know one time my grandmother read part of it with us. My mom took over the rest, but my grandmother read quite a bit of one book one time. Most of it was my mom reading me books, and to my brother as well. The odd chance there were some available talking-wise, and obviously now with Bard, there were more after I was reading them. That I think there was a few collections and stuff, and some other ones got read after I was reading them, which is I was irritated about that. If you have access to Bookshare, there's some more there in electronic text. I think the UK libraries have a couple. Other blind libraries have a few. I think Canada has. I think they have our collections. They have all the ones we would have narrated. I don't know if they had any past. I know there's a guy there that he used to get books from NLS through some kind of exchange with Canada. Our tapes got sent back and forth. I did not know that. I wish I would have been cool to have read some books from there at the time, but I think he did that. He did it that way. They must have had them available through the National Library Service. They got to the at the time it was a CNIB library in Canada, which is all gone into CELA library. CELA is another one, but they're not as big in ELS. But I don't know if they have any Hardy Boys books on that. I don't know for sure. But that's that in a nutshell. Just kind of another nostalgia thing about a series I loved from about, third, 4th grade to 5th, 6th, 7th, till I just couldn't find them anymore. They just stopped sending them to me, which is sad. Because it was kind of, there was a 3-part kind of case files thing. It was kind of the second part of this thing, and it just kind of got it midstream. I believe it's on Bard. I think I was able to finish the whole little arc there. I think. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure that I was able to find the next book in that. They were so just sporadically available. There was no sequence. They just, whatever book, I guess, was a bestseller or something, they would just record it. And there was no, much like how Star Trek books were and Star Wars. Obviously, Star Wars now, they just get the commercial versions and they're just there eventually. But no love for Star Trek. I don't even know if they have Star Trek books, but it was a similar, you'd have series of books. You get parts of them and not all of them, and you just read what you could get at the time. It's better now, but at the time I was growing up, it was just whatever there was available. Of course, there were some in Braille that weren't available on tape even. Like I read one Hardy Boys book that way. I don't even know if any of that stuff is available e-text wise. Maybe you could get an Braille copy of it in BRF format. I don't know. I haven't looked. I'll have to look again and see what there is in Braille for the Hardy Boys. I'll have to look. There should be some in there. I just don't look at Braille books enough. I've just gotten back with the e-reader through Library of Congress. I've gotten more into that for my local library. I just have not browsed for Hardy Boys. I might do that after I make this video, but there should be some available. Just have a look for the Hardy Boys, wherever you search for books. I assume Audible has them too, maybe. But Libraries for the Blind did them here or there. So maybe go back and listen to some if you want, or maybe check it out if you like younger fiction books. I do like quite a bit of some of the best books I've ever read were for kids. So that's me anyway. I've read some a few years ago. I went back and read a few. Not all of them, but I read a few that I really liked, or maybe hadn't read in a long time. But yeah, that's it for now. I don't know, one of my nostalgia journeys from my childhood. I will see you guys in another video.